Deceased's Dark Legacy: How Tom Taylor's horror epic changed DC Comics forever. The 8-issue series Dceased War of the Undead Gods, the final chapter in the Dceased saga by acclaimed writer Tom Taylor and artist Trevor Hairsine, is a dark and gloomy tale that concludes the franchise in a fittingly apocalyptic fashion. The series is a perfect blend of horror, heroism, and hope, which has been a hallmark of the Dceased franchise from its inception. The story takes us on a journey that begins with a battle for Earth, but soon turns into a full-blown war that threatens the entire galaxy. The appearance of a resurrected and undead Darkseid in Dceased Dead Planet sets the stage for the most devastating conflict yet for the likes of Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. The anti-life equation, a deadly formula that enslaves the minds of those who come into contact with it, spreads throughout the universe, and the survivors of Earth prepare for the coming apocalypse. As the situation becomes more and more dire, the characters realize that their only hope may lie with the most powerful surviving hero from the first Dceased series. The story is filled with darkness and gloom, and the stakes are higher than ever. The fate of the entire universe is at stake, and the heroes of the DCU must fight to protect what they hold dear in a world that is quickly falling apart. The dark and gloomy atmosphere of Dceased is further enhanced by the stunning artwork of Trevor Hairsine and the variant covers of Dan Mora, Kale Ngu, Francesco Mattina, and Sun Kaminaki. In particular, Mora's connected variants for issues #1-4 pay tribute to Jim Lee's iconic X-Men #1 cover, with Batman, Superman, and Darkseid taking on the roles of Wolverine, Cyclops, and Magneto, respectively. The world of Dceased is a grim and terrifying place, where a twisted version of the anti-life equation has unleashed a deadly zombie outbreak that infects many of DC's most beloved characters. Created by Tom Taylor, the original 6-part series debuted in May 2019 and was drawn by Hairsine. It was followed by the 7-part sequel Dead Planet, also written by Taylor and illustrated by Hairsine. The Dceased saga has expanded to include several spin-off series, including the one-shot A Good Day to Die, the 3-part Unkillables, and the 15-part Hope at World's End. War of the Undead Gods, the final chapter of the main Dceased series, was announced in February 2022 and brings the entire saga to a thrilling and devastating conclusion. With its compelling mix of horror, heroism, and hope, Dceased is a must-read for fans of the DC universe and zombie fiction alike. Unkillables explore the life of villains after Dceased, the comic set in the world where the heroes and the majority of the population turned into zombies also is written by Tom Taylor. Dceased, Unkillables tell what the villains of the DC universe did after the heroes lost the fight against the deadly virus that turned most people on Earth into zombies. In this comic, Red Hood and Deathstroke are at the center of the story, and the figure of zombie Wonder Woman is present again. The hit DC series answer this question: what did the villains do when the heroes failed and the world ended? Emerging from the dramatic events of the 2019 blockbuster, this dark world with a streetwise story of death, heroism, and redemption. Led by Red Hood and Deathstroke, the toughest villains and anti-heroes in the DC universe fight mercilessly to save the only commodity left on the dying planet of the undead, life. Like Dceased, Unkillables have several variant covers that, in addition to the traditional alternative designs, will also include horror movie homages. DC's zombie sequel Dead Planet introduces a new Justice League. In the Twitter message of Taylor you can read, "We thought we had nothing left to lose. We were wrong." To these phrases he added the hashtags #Dceased2 and #DeadPlanet, revealing the title sequel. Members of this new Justice League include Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Swamp Thing, and Constantine. They are seen standing on a stone structure while surrounded by countless zombies reaching out to grab them. The following information contains spoilers in case you haven't read the first volume of Dceased. In addition to the new Justice League members, Dead Planet also introduces several new characters, including Captain Boomerang 2, Mr. Miracle, Big Barda, and a new character named Wink. The series follows the survivors of the original Dceased series as they venture out into space to find a cure for the anti-life equation and save what remains of humanity. Dead Planet also features variant covers by notable artists such as David Finch, Francesco Mattina, and Peach Momoko. The series explores the aftermath of the original Dceased series and the continued struggle for survival against the undead. The original 6-issue Dceased series introduced readers to an alternate reality where the anti-life equation, a corrupted form of a powerful equation that grants its user complete control over the minds of sentient beings, had been unleashed upon Earth. The virus quickly spread, infecting heroes and villains alike, turning them into zombie-like creatures known as the anti-living. As the outbreak intensified, a small group of surviving heroes banded together to try to find a cure and stop the spread of the virus. Along the way, they faced numerous challenges and heartbreaking losses, leading to a shocking finale that left readers eagerly anticipating what would come next. The success of Dceased led to a number of spin-offs and sequels, including the 3-issue series Dceased, A Good Day to Die, which explored the final moments of some of the series' most beloved characters. The follow-up series, Dceased, Unkillables, focused on a group of villains and anti-heroes who banded together to try to survive in the midst of the outbreak. Meanwhile, the 7-issue miniseries Dceased, Dead Planet saw the return of some of the series' most beloved heroes, who were forced to confront a new threat in a world overrun by the anti-living. Throughout these various titles, Dceased maintained its signature blend of horror and superhero action, exploring the darkest corners of the DC universe and showcasing the resilience and heroism of its iconic characters in the face of insurmountable odds. With its bold storytelling, stunning artwork, and unforgettable characters, Dceased has become one of the most popular and influential comic book series in recent memory, cementing its place as a beloved part of the DC universe. Dceased, Dead Planet is the latest miniseries in the Dceased saga, following a 3-year time jump after the events of the original miniseries. The new story sees a team of surviving heroes, including Damian Wayne as the new Batman and Jon Kent as the new Superman, return to the infected Earth in an effort to save any remaining survivors and find a cure for the anti-life equation. The Dead Planet storyline expands on the mythology of the original miniseries, introducing new infected characters and exploring the concept of anti-living beings that retain some degree of their former personalities and memories while still being driven by the virus. In addition to the main miniseries, Dceased has spawned a number of tie-ins and one-shots that further explore the world of the infected DC universe. These include Dceased, Hope at World's End, a digital-first series set during the early days of the outbreak that focuses on lesser-known characters, Dceased, A Good Day to Die, a one-shot that sees the Suicide Squad attempting to survive the apocalypse, and Dceased, The Unkillables, a miniseries that follows a team of anti-heroes and villains as they attempt to carve out a place for themselves in the New World Order. Overall, Dceased has been praised for its dark and imaginative take on the DC universe, as well as its willingness to take bold risks with beloved characters. The series has also been successful commercially, with the original miniseries selling over 500,000 copies and becoming one of DC's best-selling titles of 2019. Dceased, Dead Planet is the first true sequel to the original Dceased and was released in 2020. The story takes place 5 years after the anti-living took over Earth, and a team of heroes returns to the planet after receiving a distress signal from Cyborg, who has discovered a cure for the virus. The team from Earth-2, along with magical heroes like Zatanna and John Constantine, manages to synthesize and spread the cure for the infected, despite facing hordes of anti-living. Dceased, War of the Undead Gods concludes the series, and it was released in 2022. The story resolves the last major plot thread by going back to how it all began with the new gods. With new Genesis and many Fourth World characters infected by the mutated anti-life equation, the superheroes work together to stop the contagion spread across the cosmos. The Green Lantern Corps becomes involved in the intergalactic conflict, and the infected Darkseid resurfaces after surviving the destruction of Apocalypse. War of the Undead Gods provides a sense of hope in the face of a hopeless situation, with many characters reuniting with their cured loved ones who they thought were lost to the virus. Despite focusing on intergalactic conflicts, the story keeps the spotlight on the Bat family, with Damian Wayne and Alfred Pennyworth taking charge during the heroes' last stand against the sentient anti-life equation. They undergo transformations of their own to turn the tide of battle and save the day. Dceased has left a lasting legacy by helping horror to have a greater presence in DC's output since 2019. The success of Dceased has positioned horror as an essential part of DC's publishing line. In 2021, DC launched its DC Horror imprint, which included several titles that featured more mature horror storytelling. Although DC had previously ventured into horror, notably with Joe Hill's Hill House Publishing imprint, DC Horror presented a less singular creative vision. DC's foray into horror continued with 2021's DC vs. Vampires, written by James Tynion IV, Matthew Rosenberg, and illustrated by Otto Schmidt. This series also features a version of the DC Universe overrun by ravenous monsters, similar to Dceased. Following the success of Dceased, Tom Taylor expanded his creative presence at DC, primarily through the Superman line of titles. In Dceased, Jon Kent was forced to step up and assume the mantle of Superman when his father was abruptly taken off the board. Taylor's focus on Jon following in his father's footsteps, albeit under considerably less apocalyptic circumstances, continues the legacy of Dceased. Overall, Dceased presented a DC universe consumed by the ultimate nightmare, where surviving heroes endure the horrific crucible to find hope at the end of the world and live on. The creative team showed readers what the iconic characters were really made of, shining through tragedy and loss as they kept fighting against impossible odds. Although DC had mixed its characters with horror on multiple occasions before, nothing had the same scale as Dceased, and the genre blend continues to have a visible impact on the publishing line. Currently, all 8 issues of Dceased, War of the Undead Gods are on sale, and the hardcover collection is currently available for pre-order. Your visit to our comic books and pop culture channel is much appreciated. Subscribe to Uncanny Collectibles for more unique information, scoops, and exclusive stories.